The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good day, everyone. My name is Kevin Arndt from Topia, and on behalf of all of us here at Topia, I want to thank you for joining us for today's webinar. This webinar is part of our Topia Passport series, and today we'll be covering automation and analytics with Topia Manage. Before we get started, we have a few housekeeping notes. We've muted all the lines to manage background noise, but we do encourage your questions, so please type them in the question box, and we will address them at the end of the presentation. We're also recording this session. A link will be sent out in a day or two, and please feel free to share that link when it gets out to you all. And with that, I'm going to introduce today's speaker, Dmitry Vashugin. Dmitry, take it over.
Thanks, Kevin. Today, as Kevin mentioned, we're going to be talking about automation and analytics. So just to go over a few of the topics here for today's webinar. We'll start off with a couple business and industry considerations, talk a little bit about the mobility concerns and some of the pain points, and then really focus in on the opportunities that technology can bring to help global mobility programs better support their business. And we'll wrap it up with a demonstration of Topia Manage, which is part of the Global Mobility Suite at Topia and utilized by organizations to help increase automation, help increase efficiency, and leverage the data to make insightful business decisions. Many of you will be familiar with these statistics, but just to set the stage a little bit. 61% of companies identify controlling mobility costs as the #1 pressure from business stakeholders. The average number of global assignees is expected to increase by 25% by 2020. And on average, expatriates are up to 3 times more expensive than local counterparts. What does this mean to us all? What it means is that global mobility populations are increasing. There's cost pressure on all of us to reduce costs, and mobility professionals are being asked to do much more with fewer resources. So how can we solve those 3 pressures? One of the ways is via technology solutions, automation, and having control and organization of your data. When we talk to our customers, a lot of the customers bring out very similar concerns. They're around efficiency, compliance, talent, and cost. With efficiency, customers are looking for configurable automation and workflows. How can they leverage technology to help them manage and drive their business processes? How can they take away some of that manual, laborious work that is frequently handled by the global mobility function? And how can they transition that into an automated and efficient solution to allow them more free time to be strategic business partners? Things like automatic document generation. Global mobility team members are spending a lot of time putting together offer letters, assignment documents, and other type of documents that are required from a compliance perspective to get the employee relocated. But with tools in place, this can all be automated. Similarly, getting cost estimates out to the business. It's one of the areas that global mobility can add extreme value, and the speed and accuracy and precision of those cost estimates is critical in how global mobility can support the business and help provide them with information to make informed business decisions. Compliance is another area where we focus quite a bit as a mobility function. Making sure that your employees are getting paid accurately, making sure that there's proper withholding, and making sure that we have the right visa so that the employee can work in the location legally. All of the compliance that we manage is critical to the success of the assignment and critical to all of our companies. Also ensuring that we have accuracy from the get-go so that we're not having to deliver W2Cs or amended filings after the fact and causing the employee to be upset with us. Having the right tools in place can help you tremendously manage the compliance and the risk associated with all of the compliance areas. From a talent perspective, we're looking for our employees to have great positive experiences, and we want them to be consistent. An employee moving from one location to another should not have a different experience than a different employee moving to those same locations. How do we ensure that we can get the employee to that location expeditiously with speed and certainty, and make sure that the employee hits the ground running, doing their job for the reason why they were sent on the assignment to begin with? And how do we make sure that when the employee gets there, they have confidence in our ability to deliver to them not only all of their allowances, but ensuring that their payroll is paid correctly? And the last piece around mobility team concerns is cost. The cost pressures associated with managing a mobility function, the cost pressures from the business, and making sure that you have the right tools, the right suppliers in place, and ultimately being able to lower your operational cost per move. All of this can be achieved via technology and automation. And we talk a little bit about the power of automation and what automation can bring to your organization. And really it boils down to three main areas: scalability and continuity, operational rigor, and control of risk. Really, when you have technology and tools in place, you can really start driving your processes in an automated way. That ensures complete consistency. It ensures that when you have a need to access the information, it's all there for you. And really, technology allows you to be vendor agnostic, which means that you can select whichever suppliers you want at the correct time in your program evolution without risking losing all of your data and losing all of the information up until that point. From an operational rigor perspective, companies have very different types of processes. Some processes are very complex, they're multidimensional in nature, and technology can really drive process efficiencies for your organization. You can allow different vendors to have access, different team members, and what that allows is the ability for you to share the same version of the truth. And everybody using the same data and information at the same time to do their piece of the mobility puzzle. You have complete control, you have complete visibility of everything that's happening within your program, and you're delivering a solution that's very consistent. And the last piece of this automation puzzle is really controlling the risk. When you rely on manual processes with multiple handoffs, you are prone to error. And errors within our space are very costly, either from a cost perspective or because we're sending out employees that are very, very important to the business. And minimizing that risk is critical to the success, not only of the global mobility function, but also to the entire organization. Automating processes, data flows, and making sure that all of the checks are in place to deliver good service are areas of automation that technology can bring to the table. Now I'm going to spend some time demonstrating Topia Manage. Topia Manage, as I said, is part of our global mobility suite that really is focused on providing HR, global mobility, and the business with the appropriate tools to ensure the successful delivery of the global mobility program. I'm logging in now as a super user, and as a super user, I'm allowed to see and do pretty much anything in the system. But what we're trying to do is bring people and data together. So when you send an employee out on an international assignment or a permanent relocation, it triggers a lot of different groups to need access to the information, whether you're an HR business partner, whether you're somebody within the business, whether you're a supplier, whether you're global mobility, whether you're the employee themselves, you have a need to be part of that process. And so depending on who you are and what your role is, you will have a different view of the world when you log in. As a super user, I'm able to see a significant portion of the dashboard, and this is really a 30,000-foot view of what's happening within my global mobility program. You'll notice that we have a variety of different widgets: assignment chart widget, assignment widget, quick links widget, tasks widget. These widgets can be moved and configured according to your preferences. And really the idea is to get you to the data quickly and efficiently to help you not only understand your program and the data that supports your program, but to allow you to be able to utilize that data to help support the business in making informed business decisions. One of the areas of Topia Manage is the assignment chart widget. This is a graphical representation of data. It's very easy to see and understand. For example, looking at your population by type of assignment, whether that's commuter, long-term, permanent transfer. And these charts are all what we call multidimensional. And what that means is that you're able to drill into and understand the data very, very quickly and easily. So as an example, if I click here on Western Europe, it now takes me to the countries that make up that particular regional population. And furthermore, if I always want to have my finger on the pulse of what's happening in France, I can click on France and it will take me to all of the employees that make up the French population. Now, very easily, I can export this into Excel and start working with the data right away. That's some basic functionality, and this is an area of the tool that we call Smart Grid. And Smart Grid permeates throughout the entire application. And it has a lot of functionality that's very, very useful when you're looking at the data that supports your mobility program. One of the things that I'll show you are a few examples of how our customers utilize this Smart Grid. So for example, I've set up a default view that includes my employee's last name, first name, policy type, assignment status category, home and host location, etc. I can utilize this very similarly to Excel, and I can say, you know, I'm interested to know everybody that I have on a long-term assignment who's currently in the status of on assignment, whose home country is the United States, and whose host country is the United Kingdom. Now, very quickly and easily, with about 4 clicks, I'm able to see my entire population that meet the criteria. Again, I can export this into Excel and start working with that data right away. Now, one of the beauties of the Smart Grid is that I can very easily start typing information into this smart grid bar to narrow down my choices as well. So if I want to see everybody who's India, who's LTA, who's on assignment, boom, there's my data set. One of the additional values of being able to utilize this data is the ability to bring in any other data field into the search criteria. So just as an example, if I want to be able to search on, for example, home region, I can just find my field there called home region and just drag and drop it directly into my field list. Similarly, if I want to be able to search on host region, I can do that as well. And then I can stack these two so that they'll be right one underneath the other, and I click submit. That's how easy it is to add any information that you have stored in the database directly into the smart grid. And then, as we did, I can say, I want Western Europe outbounds on assignment, and I'm going to save this search. And I'm going to call this Western Europe on assignment. Click submit. And now when I go back to my dashboard, you'll notice that I have Western Europe on assignment there as a saved search. Now I can go back to that same criteria anytime I want, and I can do and look at that information whenever somebody asks me. It's right there at my fingertips. And that's one way that data is powerful within Topia Manage. You have other type of searches that you can easily create. For example, I have a search that are employees that are starting in the next 30 days. I can add that search here under my searches and then see every employee that's starting in the next 30 days. Maybe you want to search for all employees that are ending in the next 30, 60 to 90 days. Maybe you want to see the relocation status of certain moves. All of that is right on your fingertips. Every user has the ability to create and generate whatever searches they need to help them manage not only their caseload, but all of the information that they are required to know about the population. Now, one of the things about Topia Manage is the ability to automate various processes. One of those processes is what we call an initiation process. And this process creates a lot of automation behind the scenes. And what we find typically when we go talk to customers is sometimes this process is very manual, and it is a bunch of emails being sent back and forth to a variety of different people, and keeping track of everything that's happening is very, very challenging. So one of the areas that I wanted to show is real quickly is how this process works within Topia Manage, and then show you some of the automation that sits under the hood. I'm going to create a new record for this employee. And there are different paths that this process could take. All of these paths are workflow driven, and this process is all smart form driven. What that means is that whatever questions you need to know are asked at the appropriate time, and you can derive what questions are asked downstream based on how you've answered certain questions upstream. The first part of this process is setting up the appropriate employee details. Now, one of the things that we do is we integrate very much so with your HRIS system. We integrate with all of them. And so if that integration is in place, all of this information would have already been pre-populated. I'm showing you an example now of a situation where that interface has not been built and your HR business partner is keying in this information. So I'm going to send Matt Marquez on an assignment. You'll see some of this information is mandatory, some of it is optional. And I'm going to click continue here. The next part of this process is entering in information about the assignment or where they're moving to and from. So I'm going to send this employee from New York to London. We support every different type of policy. We support all different kinds of projects from a reporting perspective. And we're going to send him on a long-term assignment that ends a couple years down the road. We track things like cost center information because we're often helping our customers with intercompany billing and cross-charging of expenses. We also track payroll, as one of our products is called Topia Pay, and it allows us to manage all of the payroll and compliance for your entire global mobility population. We'll give this employee a salary and we'll click continue here. We're going to say that we don't know dependent details at this time and that this employee, Matt, does not have any children that are accompanying him. And we'll also pick Holly Barker as the home HR contact and click continue. It's as easy as that. That's a basic process, and we're going to click submit. Now, what happens when we click submit is a ton of automation under the hood. If you can imagine, what's happening now is we're creating an employee record, we're creating an assignment record, we're also generating the full cost estimate. And I would encourage everybody who's interested in cost estimation to check out the webinar for Topia Plan. We're also generating the initiation, pre-departure checklist and workflow, and we're notifying somebody on your team, on the global mobility team, that a new initiation has just been submitted. Now, all of that happens within about a minute of the HR business partner submitting the request. And if you can imagine this world where HR has a request, they submit it via the system, and by the time they pick up the phone to call Global Mobility to tell them that there's an urgent request, all of the information is there ready for Global Mobility to consult. So let me show you how all of that works. So I'm going to come in here and find my employee. There he is, Matt Marquez, and I'm going to click on his record. Now, one of the things that you'll see is that his assignment summary has already been created. There's a navigation bar that has all of the information about his assignment. This is, again, configurable, so you can add any information that you find to be useful. We also have all of the information that was originally entered through the initiation form. So everything about his assignment being long-term, his family size, the locations, the positions, any status on his relocation are all here on his assignment summary screen. You'll also notice that we've created what we call an initiation new assignment checklist. This checklist starts from the initiation. It takes us via workflow all the way through the cost estimate and approvals process. We generate the assignment document automatically. We authorize all of the suppliers, and we get them set up on payroll properly before they relocate to that host location. This is a simple example of a initiation checklist. These can be as simple or as complex as you need them to be. The key point here is that we're managing all of these processes completely via workflow. Let me show you a little bit about how this looks. When I click on this initiation pre-departure checklist and I hover over, you can see that these various processes you can add dependencies for. So for example, right now, you'll notice that the cost estimate and approvals process are active, and it's in a state that's called cost estimates are ready for level 1 review. You'll also notice that the assignment document process is currently pending, and it's dependent upon getting to a certain point within the approval process. Now, these things are very flexible, and you can take any of these processes out of order, but enforcing the happy path process is one of the key considerations of bringing on a technology solution to make sure that you have consistent, repeatable experiences. Let me show you a little bit about what this process does. So if I were to go into the cost estimate and approvals process, there's quite a bit of information here that's available to you to see. The first thing to note is that the system has automatically identified the correct global mobility contact. That would be Joe Global Mobility US. So based on business rules, this task has been assigned to Joe. And if this was in a production site, Joe would have received an email letting him know that a new initiation has been requested that requires his attention. When Joe clicks on that hyperlink in the email, it takes him directly into this screen. And what can Joe do here? Joe can automatically go to the assignment that this relates to. Joe can also see some important information. Joe can see that the priority of this task is medium. He can also see that there's been a due date assigned. He can also see that it's been 3 minutes since the last action has taken place. So not only are we tracking time in between each step or task, but we are tracking time for the entire process, and we're tracking time for the entire checklist. What does that give to you all? What that allows you to do is measure SLAs. It also allows you to have real data to look at where there might be some inefficiencies in your process. So rather than having people complain anecdotally, you'll be able to see how long it's taking people to get certain activities done within the process, because all of this data is tracked for you and reportable. You'll also see that we've automatically created the cost estimate and it's ready for Joe to review. I'm not going to go too much into the cost estimate as part of this webinar today, but there is entire functionality that supports generating, creating, managing, reviewing, and updating cost estimates as well. So Joe would look at this cost estimate and Joe would be able to do a couple different things. He has some next steps associated there. He can add some notes. And he can say review's been completed and click continue. Now the task and the workflow will be set up to automatically send to the next person that's available for approval of this assignment. And that person might be the HR business partner, that person might be the VP of HR, might be somebody within the business. They would get a notification allowing them to approve the assignment, and they can come in here and simply approve, pick the correct cost estimate, and click submit. Now it's very easy to do. We're managing it via technology, and you'll see that we're tracking each and every step of the process. We have some customers that may have 7 levels of approvers this is all completely automated for utilizing workflow. So very easy to track, manage, and also use. We're also tracking all of the history of what's happened up to that point in time. So you can see everything that the system has done or that every user has done to advance this process forward. This can also be reported on as well. So not only do you have access to the data, you now have processes that are driven by technology, you have automation, and you have information at your fingertips. A few other things to show you real quick. When I come back to my dashboard, one of the things that you'll see is that the cost estimate and approvals process has now been completed, and we've now created the assignment document process and initiated it. When I go into the assignment document process, you'll notice that the entire assignment document has already been created. And I'll just show you an example of this. So this is a sample letter, it's an example, but we're bringing in dynamic text and we're replacing items in your template with the dynamic fields that are located in the system. And it's instant. You'll see that this letter in the template would say dear, and then it would say insert first name, last name. Congratulations on your new assignment to insert host city, comma, host country. So we have customers that have very, very complicated templates. Some of our customers have templates that are 40 to 50 pages long that generate a 3 to 4 page output letter. And you can build in all of those business rules. You can build in all of those conditions. You can build in all of the dynamic fields and literally have your final letter output within seconds rather than having to manually put that together. And that's some of the power of not only automation, but that technology can bring to your organization. The last thing I want to cover as part of the Topia Manage demo is just how easy it is to generate reports. Reporting is a critical component of any technology that you may be interested in looking at, because the output of what's in the system and how you utilize that data is often critical to your interactions with the business and the value that the business has in the global mobility team. One of the things that we can do very easily is generate a report and have it scheduled. If you can imagine, again, this is done via workflow. You can schedule any report template that you create yourself. And what that means is that you can create a report output and then you can decide how frequently you want it. Let's say you want it on a monthly basis. It'll ask you for the first occurrence date. It'll also ask you if you want to get a copy of that report and who else you want to receive that report on a monthly basis. Each and every month, the report will refresh itself and automatically send you a notification that it's ready. Can you all imagine a world where you don't have to generate these reports manually, where you're not consolidating information from 10 different sources, and when it's as simple as you kind of set it up once and you can forget about it? The report will be sent to all of the people that need the access to the information on a period of your choosing in an automated way. It's very easy to also create these report templates. You can go into reports here. And I can come in and say, create new report. I can name this report. I can make this report public, or I can make this report private and only to me. And then I could pick the fields, and picking the fields is as simple as we were doing before. So I can say, you know, I want assignment status, and it's just drag and drop. So very easy to do. Or if I want all of the information, I can just pick it up, bring it down. And then you build the criteria. So very, very important piece of any reporting engine is getting to the data set that you're looking for. When I was on the global mobility side of the house and I would be interested in getting a report and I would ask my supplier for a report, what I would get back oftentimes is what I would call a data dump. And it was this huge Excel template with a bunch of different columns, hundreds of rows. And what I ended up having to do was cut and paste, sort it, and actually work with that data to get to the data set. That's no longer required. You can do that right from the get-go by picking the right criteria. And picking the right criteria is very, very easy. You can say, for example, that you want assignment status equal to on assignment, and let's say you want home country equal to the United States. There you go. The report will give you all of the fields for those employees that are on assignment with the home country of the United States. And it's that easy to do. With that, I appreciate everybody's time. That's a high-level demo of Topia Manage. And we'll open it up to see if anybody has any questions.
Thanks, Dimitri. Very enjoyable. So as Dimitri mentioned, folks, if you do have a question, please go to the GoToWebinar control panel and click the question tab and type them in. We'll be happy to get to them. There's a couple there we'll get to. Before I forget, I just want to remind everyone about our next webinar on the Topia Passport series. That'll be on Topia Move, Modern Outsourced Relocation Management featuring Topia Move. That'll be June 12th. So if you'd like to register for that or see the other events we have coming up, please go to our website. It's topia.com/events, and all the information will be there. So with that, let's go to this first question, Dimitri. This one you've probably heard a bunch of. I'm paraphrasing, but basically our current program exists on spreadsheets and Post-it pads, but we're a little overwhelmed when we start looking at technology solutions. What's the first steps these folks should take? Are there some basic stuff they should start with when they start doing this this research?
Yeah, definitely. You know, Excel is a very powerful tool, and it's usable in some instances. But as your program gets to a certain point, Excel is no longer scalable to manage your global mobility program. And what I would say is these technology solutions these days, including Topia Manage, really help customers from very, very small programs to very, very large enterprise programs with thousands of assignments and relocations. So it's not too late to start looking. I would explore and understand what's available in the marketplace and whether or not your program fits the profile for a solution such as Topia Manage.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Once again, folks, if you have any questions, please just type them in. I'm just going to take one more look here to see if anything's here. Doesn't look like it. So I think with that, we're going to wrap this up. Again, please go to the website, topia.com/events, for our future upcoming webinars and trade show appearances. And thanks again, everyone, for the time. Thank you, Dimitri, and thanks, everyone. Have a great day.